Hey guys, Zane from the Infinite Jukebox here with another EP review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Crosses record, Permanent.RADIANT. Permanent.RADIANT is the latest EP from the sort of post-rock, alternative rock supergroup Crosses, which is most notably made up of frontman of Deftones, Chino Moreno, who really is one of the most iconic frontmen of any rock music subgenre within the past 25 or so years. But hey, there's also Sean Lopez and Chuck Doom of multiple other projects, mostly relating to post-rock kind of sounds, and while those projects may not be as relevant as Deftones have been over the past couple of decades, they're still worthy enough of being considered valid and noteworthy musicians that I'm going to consider Cross as a supergroup overall. Crosses haven't actually done a full studio album since their self-titled single full-length album in 2014, but at the same time, this latest EP should be enough to hold diehard fans over for the time being, while also not really appealing to anybody who's not already familiar with the trio's work. Chino Moreno's vocal work here is fine. I mean, there's nothing particularly good or bad to say about it overall, and I'm not going to lie by saying this is one of his better vocal performances, but at the same time, he doesn't sound lethargic either. It's obviously a creative choice that he has made to tone it down and dial it back a little bit throughout the entirety of Permanent.RADIANT. It's just a creative choice that I don't think was necessarily the best. A more subdued vocal style is something Chino has done many times in the past to much more success than is found on this EP, and it's not that he can't do it well, and it actually works a couple of times throughout this EP's relatively short runtime, but that being said, I do wish that there was a bit more to his vocal performance overall, as even though it's obvious that he's doing this on purpose, it's not like he's delivering a weak performance per se, it really does feel like Chino Moreno is just kind of not the most engaged with the material that he's doing vocal lines over. It really is a shame because, as his work with Deftones among other projects have proven over the years, he's an incredibly strong vocalist. It's just a shame that he doesn't demonstrate it on the latest EP from Crosses. As far as instrumental and compositional work go, I have to say that Permanent.RADIANT, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice overall. It's chill, and at times it even feels pretty ethereal, which is not the most surprising thing in the world, but that doesn't stop it from being pleasant, and it makes this record a pretty emotional listening experience overall that's fairly easy to lose yourself in. I won't say that this EP will change your life or your perception of music or anything like that, but at the same time, if you want something that's pretty emotive to just kind of vibe with for the next 20-ish minutes, this is a good pick. Again, Permanent.RADIANT is fairly predictable in terms of the directions that it goes in for the most part, despite some slight variations and experimentations, which I'll talk about in a moment, but that doesn't stop it from being a compositionally solid EP that I genuinely think is worth hearing if you are interested in this particular brand of alternative music. Now, as with anything that involves any of the members of Crosses, there is some experimentation done here to just kind of spice things up a little bit more or less, and I have to say, despite the fact that I was pretty skeptical reading reviews before actually hearing this record and knowing some of the creative directions that they ended up going in throughout this EP, I gotta admit, it's pretty successful overall. I don't love it or anything, but it's pretty successful. This success is primarily found on the track Day One, which has this weird kind of tropical house beat of all things that works out kind of well. I mean, look, it's not the best song I've ever heard or anything, and in the grand scheme of things that Crosses have put out, it's probably in the weaker half of their output, but at the same time, it works out a lot better than you think anything relating to alternative rock or post-rock and tropical house would. I mean, it's a good song. It's not a bad song at the very least, and Chino does some nice vocal work over it. It feels very compositionally sound. It feels appropriate on the album, weirdly enough, and it still has just enough ethereality to it that it still feels distinctly like something that Crosses have put out. It's not them hopping on any sort of bandwagon or anything like that. It's just a surprisingly half-decent song. The trio's leanings into a heavier amount of shoegaze and sort of ethereal distortion on the EP closing track Procession is a bit more expected considering they've played with shoegaze many times in the past and arguably are even structured around the base concepts of shoegaze, but nonetheless, it's still nice to see them go a little bit further, dip their toes into the pool a little bit deeper, and still succeed in making their own distinct, unique sound. Permanent Radiant genuinely tries to pull off some twists and turns here or there, and that's something that can be risky for any record, but especially an EP where there's not a lot of time to develop different concepts outside of what's being directly presented in those songs. It's rare for an EP to have an overarching theme or something like that that really does succeed just because it's a brief time period, and that brevity can hurt for people trying to be ambitious, especially with compositional qualities or thematic qualities within tracks. But I have to say that despite the fact that this EP doesn't blow me away or anything like that, I'm pleasantly surprised by how successful it is overall, and I really do hope that some of these ideas are chased by crosses in the future, like that tropical influence or that heavy shoegaze influence, and I would love to hear a full record of that, just to really understand what they could be capable of doing in the context of a very large EP, or maybe a longer LP. I mean, just a longer EP would be nice, but honestly, I kind of want a full LP, a full-length record of just experimentation from crosses and just seeing what they can do outside of the context of a smaller project like this. So overall, Permanent Radiant isn't the greatest thing in the world or anything like that. It's not a life-changing record, and it's not the EP that's going to make you realize crosses are the greatest band on the planet or anything like that. But with that being said, it is actually a pretty solid EP that manages to handle its experimentation pretty well while never overstaying its welcome. I'm going to give this record 3 stars out of 5. With that being said, that's the end of this review. I've been Zane from the Infinite Jukebox. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.